tear, it falls and hits the ground. A tree, it falls without a sound. A bird, it calls and sends you home. A man, he sits in the cold all alone.
Hi, Bella. Thank you so much for joining me on the Joy of Sunflowers. Please introduce yourself a little bit more.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is a topic that is close to my heart, which I've just been sharing with you and that I'm about to share with everyone. My name is Bella Hilton. I have just moved from Australia to London. If anyone wants to know where I am in the world, I have been helping women in the infertility, whatever space you want to call it, helping them heal from miscarriages, helping them to cope with the mental and emotional side of life for a while now. And I absolutely love it because I think it is such a rewarding place to be, to help someone go from feeling so down and out and bottomed out by their experiences to getting to the other side of this. And the reason I do all of this is because I have that firsthand experience and I know what it takes to go from that rock bottom to getting through to the other side.
Yeah, and I think
that's me in a nutshell.
I think that's what you need as well. You have to have that understanding, I think, to truly help someone. I mean, we've all had someone say something terrible to us trying to be helpful. So having that experience, I think, is always the best way to help someone in this space. So,
and look, I'm actually the first to admit that as a girl in my 20s, not obviously not 20 now, but when I was in my 20s, I didn't get what such a big deal it was to have a miscarriage and things like that, because I wasn't in that space. I wasn't trying, it hadn't happened to me. And yeah, I just didn't get it. And when you come to someone who has deeply experienced it, like I have so many times, like I deeply appreciate what women are going through when they have those miscarriages. It's a big deal.
Yeah, really is. So let's get into your story so that everyone can kind of understand where you're sort of coming from and where you've journeyed from.
Yeah, so my journey is a long one, and I'll try and not be as verbose as I usually am. But it's my fertility journey itself was 10, 11 years, somewhere around there. From the day that I started trying to, when I actually had a baby. And during that 10 years, absolutely nothing happened. I was one of those wonderful, it all looks good on paper, but it doesn't, work out in reality. So there was, this really long process of, and this really wanted baby that was in my heart. And, fast forward through life, and then I finally did IVF with my husband, and but before, I want to say this because I think it's all important, right? Even in the loss processes. Before I went into IVF, I was in a really happy place because I had been through 10 years of misery and being down and things like that I got myself back to a place of feeling centered, loving myself, just being open to possibility of what my life was going to hold and what it was going to look like. And so I went into that IVF process and it worked first go, which is absolutely amazing. But one of the things that also did for me at that point, because I was like, right, I've done my hard yards, I've done everything that was so hard, is that it then a little bit set me up for false hope, because I was like, oh, that's all I needed to do. I just needed to do IVF and then, I'll have the family that I wanted. So I think after a year, we decided to try again and do IVF again. Only this time, trying for number 2 didn't go so well for me. And in that process, let me short circuit this, I had 4 miscarriages. So in a row, basically. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was a lot to go through. And at the time too, it's like, I think this is important to say as well, the environment that I was in also wasn't healthy. Not the IVF, but the job situation that I found myself in was like extremely toxic and really unhelpful. So everything that was kind of, and you're at work far too long to, discount it as a thing. Family life was great, but I was there so much at work that was really taking its toll on me. And then I was having these miscarriages on top of it. So everything did start to snowball again. And I did start to hit this kind of rock bottom in so many ways that that was hard. It was really hard because you're not being supported by this environment. So that made life even harder when those miscarriages happened. So that's my story in a nutshell. Having said that, it's like, having done the work that I'd done to get myself to a really happy place beforehand, I think actually meant like that I coped with miscarriages a lot better than I sometimes see other people do. And it breaks my heart that people are suffering, because no matter when you go through a miscarriage, how far along, it can be really heartbreaking. And even for the centered, stable person who has all the emotional and mental tools at their disposal, because you need to go through that process and you need to understand, you need to have time with yourself to heal and to process all of that. So I was under no kind of illusions that I needed to go through that process. At the same time, I did allow myself to go through that process. And I think that once I left that job too, though, it really helped me to heal on a much deeper level that I wasn't able to heal from completely, because I was still sitting. It was like the two were linked. Do you know what I mean? It was like this toxic environment perpetuated the healing that I needed to go through with the miscarriages as well. And I just think environment is really important for ladies, and the support they're getting and how they find themselves. Like, all of life matters when you're going through something so deeply personal, deeply in your heart.
Yeah, definitely. And just that kind of like, once you get into a certain mindset as well, like within your environment, it's really hard to knock out of it if you're in that environment constantly. Every time you revisit that environment, you kind of like get back in that headspace, whatever it was, as well. So it's just yeah, it's like a loop, like a, if you keep,
oh yeah very much a loop.
but
It's
we gotta work.
yeah
We have to work. We can't not work.
Exactly. But I think because I was feeling, and again, it's that vicious cycle of like, because I was feeling so down and out, then it's like, I mean, I thought of even applying for other jobs, and it's like they'll be able to smell it on me, like the sadness and the desperation to, do you know what I mean? And it's like, but something had to give. And in the end, I did leave that job, and I just jumped, and it was the best thing I did. And then I was able to heal on a deeper level, I think, from those miscarriages that I wasn't able to do before that, even though as I was going through each one, I was healing. I just believe that healing happens in so many different layers. And I would have told you at the time going through them that I was healed from each one. And in many ways, I was. But then when something, another catalyst happened, I was able to heal on a deeper level. And I think that's really important to understand sometimes, that, healing isn't linear. Healing doesn't necessarily happen all at once. You can be feeling really great. Not really great, but you could feel like you've moved on from a loss, and then realize somewhere along the line, actually, there's some deeper healing to do that you didn't even realize was still there. And it's all a beautiful thing, right? You process what you're ready for at the time.
And also, like, you learn things as you go in life, obviously, as well. So then those play an effect in how you take on those emotions as well. So something might just be triggered a little bit just by the different phases you're moving through in your own life as well. I've definitely felt that at times where it just kind of hits you, like, and yeah, but I was okay. I was okay like 5 seconds ago. Why am I crying now? It's just the strangest thing. Grief is just so weird. You're fine 1 minute and crying the next minute, or craving a tub of ice cream.
Yeah. So I guess my journey goes on a little bit more too, which is a little bit, left field and a bit weird for some people, because we're just talking about, loss here. But right as I was about to start another IVF cycle, because I wasn't finished, I actually got diagnosed with breast cancer. So then my journey took a very different medical route, and I ended up, in hospital having mastectomy and having to go through all of that. So, kind of that dream of baby number 2 kind of went up in flames with that, and also my life flashing before my eyes, and, all of that, so desperate to have this family, finally had a baby, and now I was, thinking, oh gosh, now I'm going to be leaving them behind. Like it was, life was, kind of messy there for a while. And yeah, so I went straight from those 4 losses into that medical journey, and really, had to compartmentalize my life around myself. And like I say to my clients all the time, it's like, it's okay when you're in these deepest, darkest moments to put yourself in cotton wool and just protect yourself from the outside world. It's staying there forever that is more of a problem, because no one wants to stay there forever. We want to get better. We want to heal. We want to move on to a place where we can reconnect back into the world. But it's okay when you're in that deepest, darkest place. It's important to really protect yourself, put yourself in that kind of bubble to say, this is my space, and none of the weirdos who want to say horrible things can get in here right now. I need to protect myself. And then when I'm ready, when I've finished processing a little bit of it, I can dip my toes in the water. I can step outside and see how I'm going. And again, that's part of the layered process of healing, right? Then we go out and we might get triggered a little bit. That's okay. But then we process that, and then we learn a new way, and then we venture out a little bit more. Do you know what I mean?
So you're talking about sort of
it's okay to be in that bubble.
Yeah, so you're talking about like a layered approach to kind of moving out, because like that's something I've struggled with. I'm like, okay, so when do I know that I'm okay? Like, when do I know, like, not okay like as in, oh, everything's peachy, but like okay to like go out and like see people. And because there was a few times where I dipped my toe in and I was like, well, that was a mistake. Come home crying like I'm a mess, because I've seen someone with a baby, or I've been in a room with people with kids, and and it's such a strange place to find yourself in when you're going through that. You're just like, well, how do I know when I'm ready to step out? And I mean, you went from 4 losses to then going through a medical situation. So then how did you kind of work that out? I mean, how long was that process, like the 4 losses and then into the diagnosis?
It was about 2 or 3 years, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I've been on a journey for a very long time in my life. It's 10-year fertilities, and then all of that. So it was a lot. But I love your question, because I think that, like you say, you're like, oh, I thought I was okay, and then I ventured out, and then I saw a baby and I'm crying. That was a mistake. But I don't think it was. Right? We're going to go out when we're dipping our toes and we might be triggered. That's okay. But it's then having the tools to be able to process that. What happened? How am I feeling? And being able to work through the thought process that happened around why you felt triggered, so that you can get to the other side of it. right? If we're just like, I'm going out, I'm coming home, I'm crying, I'm going out, and we're never actually learning a way to move through those emotions and what we're making it mean, about our place in the world, what we're saying to ourselves. If we're not working through all of that, then we're going to stay in the same place, or stay in this place for a lot longer until, I don't know, until 100 years goes by and it just kind of fades, I suppose. Right. There's what I call, there's healing where like it can take a really long time. And then I think there's healing where it's more intentional. And what I do with my clients is more intentional healing, where we're actually looking at things from a really judgmental point of view. Like, it's not about that you went to the baby shower and bawled your eyes out and made a scene. Like, who cares, right? That happened. But let's work out what happened for you, how you're feeling, and really process that. Like, we're all human. We all have like these little things that trigger us here or there that we're all working on. This is a big one because it can be so hurtful. But there is a way to learn to process it in a way that's more deliberate and more intentional, that will get you through to the other side a lot faster.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of women sort of put themselves in that sort of bubble, that kind of cotton wool. And then, something happens, maybe they go out and they cry in public. And then there's almost like a fear of going out in public again and doing the same thing, because I don't want to do it again. So how do you work through that with your clients? Because I mean, that to me is one of the biggest things. Like when I was in the beginning of my journey after having my first loss, it was a real chore to go out. Like, I just didn't want to leave my house at all. I definitely didn't for the first 2 months. But after that, it was definitely still difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish that I could, I wish it was like 1 or 2 lines, or just do this simple exercise. And obviously it's a little bit more complicated than that. And that's why I work with clients and have my course and stuff, help people actually step by step work their way through it, because there's so many different facets that go into that. And for one person, one thing is going to resonate more than something else, right? And that's why I have a step-by-step process, because at one point, some people were like, aha, at that very first step, and some people are a bit more aha at that 5th step. But it's necessary to bring people along that journey. There's a lot of trust that goes into things, because people lose a lot of trust in their bodies and their body's ability to be able to continue on with things. There's a lot of digging through kind of the mindset of like, what are you making this mean about yourself? Or what are those thoughts that are going through your mind? Now, when I went through my miscarriages, I have to say, like, sometimes I feel like a little bit of a different person, even though like they were very painful and I went through them. Other people's pregnancies and babies really didn't worry me, because I don't want their babies. I don't want their children. I wanted my own. And it was just about healing my own space and my own body and that trust in myself. And every time I did get pregnant, I always went into it of like, with that thought of, well, if this is my baby and this goes full term, I'm not going to waste a single second being depressed and anxious and whatever about it. That's not to say that I'm not a human being. I'm not an alien from space. Yes, every woman on the planet, I think, whenever they get pregnant, has a little bit of fear or anxiety about like, oh, what if it doesn't work out? Now, when you've had a loss, that usually heightens by a great deal. So there were moments where, I was having the blood draws and, you're waiting for the results. Those are the moments that I would get nervous. But outside of that, I was really just started to learn to calm myself and keep my nervous system calm by saying things to myself like, well, right now I am safe. Right now, nothing is wrong. Right now, everything is actually right. Because this is going to sound a little harsh. And believe me, I'm here all the time in this space myself. We do actually waste a lot of time worrying about things that actually never happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I like to talk about it a little bit removed from pregnancy, but it's like recently I had to go and, have my annual checkup for the breast cancer and have an ultrasound and mammogram every year just to double check everything. And for 364 days of the year, I'm absolutely fine. And then on the day that I'm having my scan and my ultrasound, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And, I'm a human being and I'm heightened anxiety and, until so I like to have them earlier in the day because then I'm like, find out the news and I'm like, okay. And then I can get back on with my 364 days of going, oh yeah, I'm fine. So everyone's human. Everyone's going to be like a little bit more anxious when they're waiting for those blood test results, or a little bit more, whatever during the concentrated moments. That's okay, right? But learning to be able to tell ourselves and keep our nervous system calm most of the time by saying, hey, right now I'm calm, right now I'm safe, right now there's absolutely nothing wrong. And that kind of comes from a little bit of a principle or a philosophy from Eckhart Tolle, because that's kind of where I learned it from. I was listening to his book, and I actually used this many years ago. It's like life lessons that stick with you, but it was for skydiving, because I never wanted to jump out of a perfectly good plane. Why would I want to do that? Like, the risk to me didn't seem worth it. For some reason, I'll skip through the story, but for some reason here I found myself about to skydive. And it's like, well, I've done all these psychology courses and things to help people learn how to manage their emotional state. This is something that I don't want to do. This is a risk that I don't feel worth it, but I'm doing it. So let's learn to manage my state. Let's put my, money where my mouth is and do this. And so I did, and I kept reminding, and I'd been listening to Eckhart at the time, and it was like, idea of like, well, nothing in this moment is wrong. Let me go with that. Okay, right now my feet are on the ground. What have I got to be nervous about? Next minute I'm in the plane. Nothing has happened. The plane is in the sky. We're not hurtling towards the earth. We're not, doing any of those things. Engines are working. I am safe. I am in my body. Everything is safe. No one around me is panicking. The guy I'm doing the tandem dive with, everyone is fine. Again, rolled out of the plane. And I was in such a calm and peaceful state as I was I was hurtling towards Earth, but in a very controlled kind of manner, so to speak, that I was like, well, nothing is wrong. I'm safe. And I had this calm, blissful feeling come over me as I was like going down, that it was so blissful and incredible. The view, it was nothing I could describe really in that moment. It felt blissful as I was floating down, and just the earth and, going through clouds and swallowing too much atmosphere, but that's another story. And and then the parachute goes up, and I was like, that was amazing. That was truly amazing. Did I want to do it again? No, I'm not crazy. But I'd done it once and I'd learned to manage my state through it. And because I did, I got the most incredible experience out of it. So I often apply that kind of thinking sometimes to when I go for checkups for breast cancer, or, when I was going through times with my losses and things like that, or even when I was going through the IVF process at all, I applied a lot of the psychology that I've learned along the way and the thinking and that kind of moment to like nothing is wrong right now. Everything is safe. And I use that throughout my cancer journey and things like that as well. It's just, you know, a bunch of other things, but I find that to be one technique that's can be really instant if you get it, if you really get that into your heart and go, yeah, right now, nothing is wrong. Right now, I am safe.
Yeah.
Right now, no one's taking my home away from me. There's no lion after me. There's nothing of the like everything is okay until I know otherwise, and learning to settle myself that way.
Yeah, no, that totally resonates because I actually have been holding on to the phrase, I am pregnant right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been holding on to that because I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I don't know otherwise, so for right now, I'm pregnant until someone tells me otherwise. Um, so
absolutely.
that's what's getting.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what can be so hard about, pregnancy after loss is that, your mind will play tricks with you. Your mind will go, oh, I know this. This is what happens, right? We start to try and collect that evidence of why this is not going to work out. And I have worked with women who, like, for me, I understand that I had the child and then had 4 miscarriages in a row. But I work with women the other way around who've had the, 4 miscarriages and then have the one that worked. And so they've got no evidence in their own mind for this working out, right? And it's in those moments that we have to stop and go, every pregnancy is a new pregnancy, right? Sometimes we're afforded the knowledge of, oh, I know why those last 3, last 4 didn't work out, last 2, last 1, whatever it is. I'm afforded that knowledge. I know why it didn't work out. It was an extra chromosome. It was something like that. Many times we're not. Many times, the miscarriage starts happening. You don't need any medical intervention. So you don't have the DNC and the ability to test or something like that. Or it might be so early or something like that, that we don't have that knowledge. And it can be a harder stretch to feel like, how do I have that trust? How do I have that peace and trust within myself that either this is my baby or I'm going to be okay and get through it? And I guess that's where I'd like to get my clients to, a place where they feel so strong at their base that whatever happens in life, they know fundamentally, even if they're at a moment where their like heart is breaking and they're bawling their eyes out, that they know they're going to be okay. And that is honestly, even though I had 4 miscarriages, and even though I hit rock bottom in some of those moments, coupled with my like job that I had at the time, I fundamentally knew that I was going to be okay. And that's the difference. I think there are a lot of women that come to me like, I'm not okay. I don't feel like I'm going to be okay. And getting to that state where they just feel a little bit more at peace of like, no matter what happens, I am going to be okay, is a strong position to start anything from, because you're so less afraid of what's going to happen. You're able to stay calm, or you're able to step into that place of trust.
Yeah. I think
And being able to move through this. Yeah.
Yeah, when you go for a loss, you lose control, right? So because you've lost that control, I feel like you're sort of grappling, trying to find some form of control. And so you do feel like you're in this losing battle and you're in this dark place and you're not going to get out of it, and that you're not going to gain control back because you already don't have the control that you wanted in whatever capacity it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we start to try and seek that control. And that comes through the form of blaming ourselves, right? I did something wrong. It was that night I stayed up. It was that cup of coffee that I drank. It was, I missed my vitamins that day, or I was too stressed, or, it's like ridiculous thing. Like, because our minds want something to, our conscious minds, I should say, want something to grab onto. They want something tangible, like put it in my hand. What is it? And then I can work on that. Like it was my diet, oh, I need to be stricter, like no dairy, no, like, oh my gosh, it's so exhausting. And we put ourselves in this kind of washing machine and become even more exhausted from this loss than just the loss itself. And that also perpetuates it, because every time then that we miss our vitamins, we go, oh my God, I'm adding to the evidence of why this is going to happen again. Or, I'm a terrible person because I didn't open a jar and put a little tablet in my hand and swallow it, right? Which is so far from the truth. None of this is reality. But this is what goes on in our minds. And it's that kind of self-talk and that kind of all those emotions, right? This is not just loss and healing. This is not just grief. There are so many emotions that come into the picture that's why it's a little bit more complicated than just like, oh, hey, this is what you do. Take care of yourself, it's not like that. It's the guilt and the shame and the whatever else we seem to be able to throw at ourselves as women, because I feel like as women we're much better at throwing a lot of darkness at ourselves in that way. Like I'm not worthy, I didn't live up to expectations somehow, when it could have just been nature taking care of itself, that actually worked in your favor, because this baby wouldn't have had a great life. Do you know what I mean? And loss is never, it never feels good, and it's never a good thing. But then beating up on ourselves about it, thinking that we could have done something differently, makes it so much worse. It makes it so much harder to heal. And so, yeah, it's all those kind of complex feelings that I like to work through with my clients, and to get to the real heart of what's going on, so that then they can start to heal, see things in a different way.
Sounds amazing.
So that they know that they could go out and dip their toes in the water and see a baby and come home crying and not judge themselves for that. That's part of the healing process. So when you say, oh, that was a mistake, it wasn't a mistake. That's part of the healing process. But what trips us up is throwing a whole lot of judgment on top of it, on ourselves, of like, oh, why am I crying? I shouldn't be crying. I've got to stop. Like, I'm a mess. No, you're not. You went through something really hard and you saw a baby and it reminded you of your own experience. And that was hard, and your heart just needs to release in that moment. When you allow yourself to move through that space rather than stuff it down, then you're able to then move on. And then those kind of times become easier, or they happen less and less.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, always going through moments that we need to have, but it's how you view them and how you intentionally heal through that makes the difference. So I like to tell this little story sometimes to my clients as a way of illustration of kind of that. It's like, again, when I went through my breast cancer, and, there was this moment where, it's like I didn't really have anything on one side, and so I couldn't wear anything low cut, and not even low cut, just even a simple V-neck and things. It's just like nothing worked. And I really, really, really wanted to go back to yoga and just do a yoga class. But, all the kind of tops I had or whatever, it's like, it doesn't matter when you're in yoga. It's kind of you in a downward dog, and, it's not that you could see down people's tops. It's just that you could see a little bit, enough that you'd be able to see the gaping hole on one side for me, right? It was all, it was just a thing. And in my mind, I was like, why can't I get myself out to do this yoga class? Like, on the surface, I was just like, why can't I go and do this yoga class? Why can't I go and do this yoga class? Why, and beating up on myself, like, what's wrong with you? Just go and do it. Why haven't you booked it yet? Right. And I was beating up on myself in that way. And then I went, okay, let's stop. For some reason, something is blocking me from doing that. What could I do instead? And I went, great, I'll do a yoga class at home in my lounge room by myself, because I hadn't worked it out yet, right? So I was like, I'm just do yoga at home. Like, stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Just to do some yoga at home. So I did some yoga at home. And when I finished it, like, I don't know, the exercise and the release of all that tension that I'd kind of built up, just, Shavasana was actually, for me, was lying on the floor bawling my eyes out, right? But it felt like a very cathartic cry, not a like I'm so miserable cry. It was just very cathartic, and I just let myself cry. And it was in that moment that I'm not judging myself, just doing this thing for myself, that I was able to realize that that's what it was. It was going out into public, and it wasn't even so much that I thought someone would come up to me and ask me, oh, what happened there? Like, why don't you have a boob? Like, it wasn't that. It was them even having the thought in their mind that I didn't want to, like, I don't know how I experienced that, a look on someone's face that I'd misinterpret or something, right? It was even that I just couldn't go through at that point. And when I worked that out, I was able then, like, very quickly in 5 minutes, just work through that and go, oh, okay, I'm over that now. Now I can book a yoga class. But if I hadn't worked it out, I would have been stuck in that place, just going, well, I can't, and beating up on myself about it.
So it's almost like you get stuck in a beating yourself up rather than working out the problem because you're too busy beating yourself up.
Working out what it is. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying when you went out and, you experienced seeing a baby or something. It's like you come home, you cry. It's like, but what was really going on? That allows you to get to the next stage. And that allowed me to get to the next stage in that moment of being able to just let go of all that built up, pent up emotion, whatever was going on in my head. Because, like I say, I'm a human being. I do what I do because I'm not the perfect human, because I've been through it all. I understand all the emotions. I understand how our minds work at their worst. But then I have done a lot of work to learn a lot of things, learn a lot of tools, learn how to process things so that I can help myself. And now that I can help other people. Because like I said, the thing that I was telling you before we came on this call was that when I look back at my 4 miscarriages, I don't really do it very often. Maybe I do to relate to a client or whatever, but there's been many times where people like say, oh, share your story. And I go, oh, yeah, well, yeah, when did the first one happen? Like, I can't remember anymore. It's not something that I'm holding on to. I'm not sitting around, thinking about birth dates and this is when they were born, would have been born or any of that. I'm not holding on to any of that pain anymore. I've moved through all of it. Sure, when you're like in the thick of it, when I've had that first miscarriage, sure, there was somebody that I was connected to on a Facebook group who got pregnant at exactly the same time. I hadn't expressed that I was pregnant, but they had, and then I could see theirs progressing and mine didn't. And sure, that was a reminder to me at the time, but I did process it to the point where I don't think about these things anymore. It's not something that I hold on to. I feel like I've completely moved through it. And for me, what I was actually saying there just at the end was like, what success looks like for me, which is completely letting it go, not thinking about dates, not even worrying about it, like having a hard time remembering it all, is not what success might look like to somebody else, because we're all different and how we place meaning on these things is very different. And some people want to still have that memory and still honor it, and things like that. Like I had someone recently who wanted to honor the miscarriages that she'd had, and she bought a couple of Christmas ornaments because it was Christmas at that time. And I think they were, I don't know if they're angel wings or something, but she wanted to remember that. And that was a healing process for her. And so she bought those ornaments for the tree because she needed to reclaim Christmas for herself as well. And that was beautiful. Do you know what I mean? And they'll forever be on her tree and remind her, but in a far more beautiful, honoring space rather than this hurtful, grief-stricken place. And that's great for her. For me, like that wouldn't be the right thing to do. And everyone is different. How we heal, how we get to this other side that, like I said, I've been talking about this other side. Help you get to the other side. It's not like you walk through a portal, but yeah.
That'd be nice if it was just like, just walk through here and you'll be good. Yeah, you'll be right.
Yeah. Hi, just come through this door. Been waiting for you. Yeah. No, but everyone is going to be different, how they want to honor it, how they want to remember it, how they want to not remember it, and just like move on. Like this just happened and now I'm past it. So everyone has to remember that as well.
Yeah.
What success is for someone is not what it looks like for someone else. So if anyone hears me saying, oh yeah, like I didn't even remember it, like what? Like for someone that might be horrible, like what? Oh no, I could never do that. And that's, and I want people to know that might not be right for them. But learning how to process your emotions, how you can view things differently so you can be honoring it from a place in your heart that feels like love rather than fear and grief can be a much nicer space to be in.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about honoring, like how to honor my losses. And like part of me was like, I don't know if I want to. Like, I don't know if I want to do something every year that reminds me and that brings this up for me. But then mine actually happened on some key dates for me. So I know who I am and I know I'm going to remember those things because they're key dates. So my first loss started happening on my birthday. So for me, every birthday, I'm going to think about it. Like as soon as I sit on the loo, I'm probably going to think about it. I just know who I am and what I'm like.
Okay.
So I said,
yeah.
We
because
did.
I've got to say that one of mine happened on my birthday as well.
What is that? I mean, seriously, that's so unfair.
My 40th birthday. Like, happy 40th.
Oh, mine was
in
on
Fiji. It was the worst.
Mine was my 29th, which was last.
Wow.
So I'm 30 this year, so that was fun. I was like, great. Right before I turned 30, I lose 2 babies. Thanks for that. But yeah, no, it's great, isn't it? Just on your birthday, just as a,
Well, so I'm just going to put it to you that, like, what if it was possible to reclaim your birthday and not have it be about that, or not have it be about that in any kind of sad way?
That would be nice. Like that's something I'm like, is that possible? And you're saying it's possible, so that's really awesome. So
I'm saying it's possible.
If it's possible, I'll look into that with you.
Like it happened. Like I had the worst experience on my 40th birthday. I do remember this as a story because it is a story. So I think this was my second loss. This is where I'm like, I don't know, they kind of merged.
It's all right. Honestly, everyone's the same. We all let go of dates.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're further on through, like it's been a while since that's happened. Like for me last year, so I remember, but I'm sure in a few years I'll probably be like, what was the date again? Like apart from the birthday one, obviously.
Yeah. So it was my 40th birthday. So we'd gone to Fiji to celebrate my birthday, and I was 9 weeks along. And I got up that morning and started bleeding. And I knew that it was over. And, I was heartbroken and it was devastating and all of that. But I was keeping it together and went to the I wasn't bleeding super heavily at this point, but I went to the morning breakfast, and it was a buffet, and I went to the buffet. Like sometimes when you recount the story, bits come back to you. So I was at the buffet, and this person was standing there, and they seemed out of place and a bit odd. And I don't know whether it's like I was getting off this sadness, rightly so, like whatever, it's my life, and I was sad at that point. But this woman kind of got up in my face and was like, "It's a nice day to be alive, isn't it?" And I was like, and the word alive just really hit me in a way that I was like, that I was just like, yeah, like hand on heart, like I was like, but my baby's not, you know, got me in the feels, obviously, because I was quite, it had only literally just started happening. So I got my food, and I just hurried back to the table with my husband, and like I had tears like coming down my eye, down my face, and he just had his hand on my arm, and just smiling at me, just being the generally lovely person that he is, um and it was right then, right at that exact moment. I'm laughing now because it's just such almost a black comedy. You can't write this stuff. That's when the breakfast mariachi band, because obviously he would have told them it was my birthday, and probably when he booked, forgetting, because they sat us on this particular table, and that's when the breakfast mariachi band decides to come right over to the table and start singing happy birthday. So the whole entire place is looking at me while I'm in this moment crying. They probably think that I'm crying because, oh, isn't this lovely? So I just let them think what I was just like, what is going on? Like, can the world just swallow me right now? Like, what? Why is everyone looking at me in this moment? And I can tell you, even I have reclaimed my birthday after that.
Well,
so maybe you can too. Maybe.
I have some faith now from
yes,
because that's like a movie. That's like when they're like writing.
Yeah, I know. You can't write that stuff. You can't write that as a script. Yeah, I know. Like
sadistic,
it was a lot.
These horrible,
it was a lot.
Let's do this horrible comedy. Ha ha ha. And just putting that in there, like that would be.
Well, see, this is why I do what I do, because I have been through so much. I have been through those moments that are like, what? Wow, how is this happening? And like 4 miscarriages into breast cancer, and like that's a lot for anybody, right? And I was definitely in and out of some good and bad places. But here I am, and I'm happy, and I'm smiling, and I love my life, and I don't look back on this, and I'm not caught up in any, I say this, but I'm not caught up in any residual trauma from breast cancer, from miscarriages, that kind of thing. Now, I say that, and because I've, circling back to the beginning when we say healing happens in layers, and maybe I will step into a place one where I go, wow, I'm not fully healed from all of this, but I'm not feeling that way right now. Like I never say no to, like, world is full of possibilities, and maybe that is something's lurking there, I don't know. But I really do feel like I'm healed from all this, and I'm happy, and now I'm feel like a spokesperson and a helper and a healer for those people that need a helping hand along the way to get to a place where they feel so much better, because I've been there and I've done it, and I know what goes into it, and I know how to get to this place where you just feel good again, and then life is good. And maybe you didn't get the 2 kids that you wanted, like me, but I'm still happy, and I'm still making the most of my life, and life is amazing. And I actually think life is just full of possibility. Moving to the other side of the world. Like most people will think, oh, that's an amazing opportunity. And it is, but it's still really hard.
Oh yeah.
That's still a really hard thing to go through. Not just the packing up and the moving, but it's like you have to make friends all over again. And there's definitely ups and downs of being here as well. It's like, oh, I could do something today, and like I've got no one to talk to, and like I've got to start again. But I sit in this place of like it's so much opportunity and possibility here. And if I choose to focus on this down moment, then I'm not going to experience this amazing moment when it comes along, because I'll dismiss it, or I won't see it, or I won't create it. And I think a little bit that's the how I like to help my clients to view getting pregnant again after a loss, is that you could spend your time sitting in the loss of what happened and what is possible, or you could maybe move into the place of like not missing this amazing thing that your body is doing. Like, this is what's happening to you right now, and it's such a beautiful thing, and knowing that we'll still have those up and down moments, but not judging ourselves those of going, because what happens is we go back to that moment of like, oh, I'm a bit triggered, or oh, did I feel a twinge or something like that? And we go, oh, I'm back at square one. I haven't healed. I haven't moved through anything. I'm just back at square one. Therefore, I completely give up. It's like the person on a diet who's lost, weight, and they gave in and ate the cake, and they go, oh, well, I ate the cake. Therefore, none of this worked, and I'll just go back to, I don't know. I mean, that's simplification, but, like, do you know what I mean? We give up and we think, oh, I haven't achieved anything. I haven't healed anything, rather than going, oh, I had a moment in time. And this is such, but what is this teaching me, and how can I maybe move forward or not? Maybe I just have a moment. Maybe I just need to cry. That's all right. Crying is really good for you. It really gets out a lot of stuff. Sometimes we just need to sit in the moment, have our cry, have our grief, say all the bad words, say life is unfair, have a real pity party. Like I always say to people, if you're going to have a pity party, just have a really good one. Just like get into it, really have a moment, get it out of your system, right? And then you can let yourself move on, right? If you try and like stuff that down, even that wants to come out.
Yeah.
Because none of this is fair. None of this is fair. And yes, it's okay to go, this is not fair. Why is this happening to me? Absolutely. Do it. It's necessary. And how can we also move on from that? Because nothing about life is fair, really. There's so much about life that's not fair. And there are going to be these moments that feel completely unfair, and it's not. I'm never going to tell you that it's fair. It's not. Didn't happen for a reason, none of that. But at the same time, is staying in that level of misery and grief good enough for you for the rest of your life? Is that where you want to stay? Because I think that sometimes when we get to these places too, we start to erode our own self-esteem and our own self-worth. That keeps us down in this place of bottom. And when we start to build up our self-worth again, we start to also see that, hey, hanging on to this grief isn't good enough for me. I'm worth more than this. It's not that I'm not honoring what happened. It's not that I'm not honoring what I went through, that it was hard, that, there might be more grief that I need to go through, and I'm still going to experience these triggers and this bad place. But I'm also worth the happy moments. I'm also worth this great, amazing life that's full of possibility. I'm worth like good things too, because there are so many crappy things that do happen in life, but we're also so worth the good things.
I like what you said about how things don't always happen for a reason. Like, sometimes things are just crap. And like when something happens, and I was thinking, a lot of I've spoken to a lot of people. They're like, oh, I don't know what the reason is yet, but you know, I'll find that reason, or I don't know if I will find that reason, but there is a reason. And I do find it interesting because, like, when you actually get to the crux of it, I mean, even I'm a Christian, and even as a Christian, when I look at it, I'm like, well, God will make good of this, but it's not that it happened for a reason or that it's good. It's that God will make something good happen after, because everything that happens that's not good, he there's a promise that he will make it good. So yeah, so I like what you said, because it's one of those things where a lot of us, we're searching for that meaning, we're searching for that reason, but we create that reason. Or, you know, if you're a Christian, God creates that reason, and or you connect with that reason through God, you know. So yeah, it's not that there's actually a reason necessarily, or like for the actual bad thing to happen. It's just crappy and bad things happen.
Yeah.
We find meaning.
Look,
and
I've also been guilty of saying in life, you know, everything happens for a reason, because, and I can alter between the two of like, no, not everything happens for a reason, and everything happens for a reason, because for some people it really helps them to think that everything happens for a reason, because then they will look for the positive meaning and work through what they've done. And sometimes that serves me as a person, and sometimes like, you know, this didn't, you know, there was no meaning behind this. It didn't happen for a reason. It just happened. Also helps me. So I'll alter between them. I'll alter between whoever's in front of me, whatever helps them the most. Because, like, you know, I have said in the past that, you know, here I am doing this job where I help men in this fertility space with losses, with, you know, infertility, going through IVF, whatever it is. And for me, that then helps explain why I went through this 10 years, this really long, difficult journey to conceive, because I know what it's like. And then I can help other people. Like, that was my silver lining. Now I get to do a job that I absolutely love, I'm so passionate about. And it took a really long time to learn that reason why all happened to me. But now look what I can help other people with, like, amazing. Or all of that stuff didn't happen, you know, like just happened and I made something good out of it, right? I mean, I alternate. It doesn't matter. It's like, what is going to help you, right? No one way works for everybody. It just doesn't. There's going to be something different for everyone that resonates. And if it happened for a reason, resonates with you, and that's great. And if it helps you to know that not everything happens for a reason, then that's great as well. Like, I honestly believe that. Or if you're going, well, this happened, how am I going to make good out of this? Works for you. That's great as well. We need to find things that resonate with us on that personal level to be able to, you know, what works for you. I'm never wedded to one way of doing things, because it's not about, you know, this technique or that thing. I always tell my clients, how is this working for you? Oh, it's not? Great. Let me pull out something else from my like toolbox of things. I've got so many things. All I ever ask people is to give it a chance, right? Not just be like, no, 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 and be closed off, right? But to be open, and they're like, this isn't hitting in the right way. Great, let's find something else. Because everything, it's like affirmations. I'm a fan and not a fan. I'm a fan because when you have that one phrase that means something to you on a really deep level, it's powerful. And it's a short, you know, maybe 4 words, and it's like, right? When I can sit here and say, I am safe right now in this moment, nothing is wrong. I've infused that with so much meaning and so many little examples from my life that I can overlay onto that. It's not just, you know, a couple of words, a small sentence. It's this bigger piece, right? That has great meaning to me and instantly triggers me in a good way. I like to use the word trigger there because we always think about triggers as bad, but it can trigger me in a good way. And it was like, I got through that skydiving and it was blissful. You know, like whatever I overlay onto these words. Where I don't like affirmations, it's like people go, use this affirmation. And then they stand in front of the mirror just saying these random words that haven't hit them in an emotional way, that they're going, I am fertile. My body can do this or something. And the back of their mind's going, no, you're not. This isn't going to work, right? Because we haven't connected anything together yet with the words. So, yeah. So sometimes affirmations are really powerful. Sometimes they're not. So that's why I think that, not everything is going to work for everyone. One phrase that works for one person isn't going to hit in the same way that another phrase is going to work for somebody else.
Yeah. I love your approach. Like you're not trying to do a one size fits all, like you've got a checklist and it's like, yeah, okay, everyone just goes through this one checklist. You're really kind of honing in and making it unique to each person that you're trying to help. And I think, yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, depending on what season you're in, you might be more susceptible to something and more able to take something on, and it might resonate with you more so in your current season than in another season. And I'm starting to see that a lot with like the things that trigger people in a bad way, not a good trigger, like things that people,
Yeah.
And it's so true, good and bad, when it comes to trigger, people just think bad. Certain words,
we're
like
triggered all day long, but
yeah, even like silver lining, like there's been women who I've seen like have posted, there's no silver lining to loss. And I understand that, but then at the same time, like after you've come through a certain way, certain amount of time through the loss, and maybe you are looking back and you're going, okay, well, I'm going to say this is my silver lining, but then, yeah. So it's really interesting how there's different triggers and different words, and it is a seasonal thing. Like it's not like the same thing triggers you all the time. You get these different triggers throughout, throughout your sort of journey. I mean, even without loss, we're triggered by different things as well. So, good and bad.
Oh, absolutely. Exactly. We're all human and we all have little things, or things that we've been working on, or, and that's the thing. It's like everyone's had like a different upbringing. Everyone's has a different set of beliefs, way they think about themselves, different experiences, even siblings within the one family, that I like to look at the person in front of me and look at the uniqueness and go, okay, what is it? Where are you now? Where do you want to be? It's not where I want you to be. Where do you want to be? And let's look at how to get there in a way that resonates with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, I do use some of the same techniques because they have been powerful, but I've also found that some people don't like some of those, so I don't use them. I do use a lot of hypnotherapy, but it's very intentional healing hypnotherapy. And when it hit, and some of the stuff, when it hits for some people, they're like, wow, that was powerful. And then if I had other people do it, like, oh yeah, that was okay. And so then we use other things for them. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we've all got things that will, or maybe in another moment it would have hit deeper with them, as well. But yeah, we've all got to find the different things that make up who we are and work out our mindset and how to get to where we want to go. And that's what I do with my clients. That's why it's very hard to say it's just this, it's just that.
Well, I'm going to ask you another tricky question then.
Okay, great.
So just to wrap up, is there anything that you want to sort of leave the viewers with, just to end on a sort of final note of just help? Maybe they're going through this season right now, they're struggling with whatever it is they're going through. Anything that you can kind of leave them with, that would be great.
What do I want to say? So many things just ran through my mind. Like, firstly, I want to say it's okay to protect yourself. And it's important that you set up your environment to support you with that. Like I said, I didn't have a great work environment at the time, and it perpetuated things. So you do kind of need to look at what in your life isn't supporting you, and that may be people, and maybe just don't talk to them about it. And that's okay. It's not like not speaking your truth. It's just protecting your heart. what else do I want to say? I think that a lot of people can find a lot more healing if they take the judgment out of that process for themselves. So, you know, just to go back to your example, you saw a baby, you came home crying. In that moment, is just to say to yourself, this is okay. You know, I saw a baby and I cried. That's all right. I'm not back at square one. It's just that moment was hard for me. And that's okay. And I'm just going to allow myself to feel this and feel this emotion. And I also want people to know that they're not going to be here forever. What has happened now, what has happened in the past does not dictate their future. And all my clients are living proof of that. Have all of my clients gone on to have their babies? No, absolutely not. Good majority, 75%. Regardless of what has happened, losses, things like that. But all of them have gotten to a place where just life, colors have come back into life. You know, I love, describing it like that. Color has come back into their life and they found themselves again, and maybe in a completely different way, right? We're never getting back to ourselves. We're getting to a new self. And yeah, as deep and dark as those holes can be, just find those people that when you're in that hole that you can reach out and, have that support network for yourself. It's so important to be able to reach out and just lean on your community. It really is, whoever that is, whether it's, your best friend, your husband, or, someone that you pay, and physically go and see, like a therapist or someone like me, because it's just so important to have those people in your life while you're going through this.
Yeah, so true. So I'll be linking all of your links down below. So your website and everything. Also your courses, if you can send me any links that you want, I'll put them down below. Anything that you think.
Great. Okay.
Everyone.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, because so I have a course, I have a podcast, I've got Instagram, so I'm a website. So it'd be amazing.
Plenty of places to go. So that would be lovely. And yeah, thank you so much for speaking with me and being part of this event. Yeah, it's just been really lovely to talk to you.
Oh, it's been wonderful to talk to you as well.
Thank you. Please note that all speakers, including experts and professionals, express information, views, and opinions that should not be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical conditions. If you have a medical issue, please consult a qualified professional. Speakers voice their own views, opinions, and conclusions, and they may not reflect the views, opinions, and conclusions of other speakers. Ella Rose, The Joy of Sunflowers, and its sponsors may not endorse all or any of the views, opinions, or conclusions expressed.